Dan, am I live? Okay, there it is. I'm just going to, I'll be right on here. Sorry, the delay on here. I'm still not used to Twitch. I just kind of like restarted this and I was like, oh, maybe it'll work. And I clicked it and got this really long delay. So here's the deal. I got some dogs behind me. I got a little kid downstairs who's like 12 years old. And yeah, he's probably going to be pretty loud at some point, playing like Call of Duty or something. He screams at the screen. I might give him some poison one day, but I haven't decided to kill him yet. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to just do some drawings or talk to you guys or take suggestions from the chat. And gonna try and do like regular streaming from now on. But check this out. I got this cool little graphic here. Look at that. I don't know if that shows up. I don't know if it works. But I made this graphic of Steve and everybody, and Steve Lichman from the comic that me and Dan do, Dan Warren. We have our little acceptable comics thing, so I made this little banner to kind of like advertise whatever the book while I do these streams. Who knows? Maybe it's really annoying. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, let me go and transition again over here. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing with this, so bear with me for a little while. Is that like good? Okay. If I'm having a delayed response, it's because the stream is crazy delayed. So if it doesn't seem like I'm getting to your question, it's probably because it's like at least a minute or so behind. Let me turn this down too. I don't want to get too loud in the mic. I don't want to peak. All right. All right. So I'm just going to wing it and draw. It's been a while since I've done anything live where I talk at the same time, so I don't know. Let's see if I can handle it. I'm going to have to get used to like the whole brain, I don't know, like mixing between questions and drawing. I used to be pretty good at it, but it's been a long time. Let's see here. So I'm gonna do some Steve characters. I'm not exactly sure which one I'm gonna do, but let me think. I'm gonna look around the room. I'm gonna do Stevis from Metroid. Y'all need to get a Nightbot / Moobot set up. I have no idea what that is. Automated frequently asked questions and does simple modding for the stream. Alright. Sounds cool. Alright, so let's do some Steve Samus stuff. I'm gonna do painting things on here too, but for now I'm just gonna try and get back into the swing of things by drawing. So yeah, any questions you have about anything, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to get to it. Try not to miss it. Could you do Steve as an Overwatch character? Oh, that's probably a better idea, huh? Yeah, I'll do that one everybody likes. That girl, was it Tracer? Or something like that. Now I have to change the pose that I was gonna go with. Okay. And do something like really feminine. Her flying through the air in that whatever pose she does with the guns. I haven't played that game yet. It looks really cool. I actually just started playing Doom, which was way better than I thought it would be. From the marketing and everything, I kind of had like... I mean, I think a lot of people were talking about how it wasn't super great, but like the visuals felt like, you know, like rip-off of a lot of different things. But as far as the gameplay goes, it was actually really cool. Can I still change my shipping address for the Kickstarter? Yeah, if you just sign in, we haven't closed the surveys just yet because we had that small delay if you saw the update we put up. But yeah, the surveys are closing tonight. I can see that Dan's already answering that question. Yeah, the surveys are closing tonight, but if you go on there and you sign up, I mean, if you sign in and edit your survey, we'll still be able to get it into the system before everything ships, but it's all on its way to Amazon right now, and they're going to ship everything out. Let me see. Will we ever get to witness you and Dan recording the audiobook live like it was talked about? Well, at first we wanted to do that. We really wanted to do the live recording, and we regret not doing it, but the way that we ended up going with it was we had so much other stuff going on that pretty much Dan ended up recording all of his parts right off the bat while I was doing other stuff. And he just finished everything, and then I kind of like plugged in all of my lines and stuff. So we kind of got sidetracked with it. We really wanted to do the streams. We couldn't find a way to like do it in like an organic way. Like we were kind of going back and forth, but we were really distracted. In retrospect, though, I think that it would have been funny for everybody to listen to us just mess up all the time. Because that's pretty much all it is us being terrible at voice acting. I almost never like... I'm taking questions from Pin Shivik. I almost never like anything I draw. I know I'm not that bad, but I can never stop thinking it's bad. What would you recommend? Just stick with it. It's not a... I don't know. It's not like something you're going to get good at overnight. You just have to be consistent with it. It's like anything else. You know, you're never going to be... Like, if you expect to be good at something right when you start, then it's just... I don't know. You're going to be let down all the time. Nobody's really good at this when they first get going, so I would just stick with it. Don't let yourself get down on it. I mean... Everybody starts from a place where they're having a rough time creating drawings that they like or being able to draw the things in their head. But it'll happen. You just have to keep working it up, keep gaining knowledge, keep studying and learning, challenging yourself, and eventually you'll be able to draw way more stuff and have better execution. But that problem will kind of never go away anyway. You'll always feel a little behind with what you have in your head. But that being said, that's the best part about it, is that you don't know everything. Not knowing everything is kind of like my favorite part about doing art, is that you can always learn something else and keep growing. Like every time I do any kind of traditional work or whatever, it's like I just feel like I suck so bad at it. And I like the challenge of it, and I like learning how to use new tools and all that. It's just a natural part of it. Are you ever gonna work on Black Witch again, maybe as a comic or something beyond the paintings? Probably. It'll be down the road. The reality of it is that doing a book is just a ton of work. We're currently working on Steve Lichman book 2, and the book itself is like 400 pages pretty much. It's going to be less than that, but we're kind of in the process of wrapping it up. We have the October deadline for us for the next Kickstarter for book 2, but at the moment it's like we kind of have this realistic expectation of how long a book takes. So it's like we know right now that it's going to take another, it's going to take the rest of the year or so to do Steve. Well, it has to just be the rest of the year because of the Kickstarter, but to do the second book, and then right from there we're probably going to do some other stuff like Skull and Shark or something, or whatever makes sense at the time. And we'll still be working on Steve too. We'll do Steve Lichman book 3, but nothing's set in stone. I'm kind of just throwing it out there, but yeah, we kind of have to plan ahead by like a lot, and it's something I wasn't anticipating. Like you have these ideas and you just go, oh yeah, let's do another book, like let's do this new property, but it takes so much building and it has to be worth it. Like we need to nail down a story, but yeah, like we want to make acceptable comics the publishing thing that it can be. Like we want to put out multiple things before we really feel like we're doing something. But Black Witch is down the road. It probably won't be a comic. It'll be more of an illustrated thing. Let me see here. Sorry if I'm rambling. I'm still trying to get used to drawing and talking at the same time again. Will you be doing the Kickstarter? Okay, so yeah, October is when the Kickstarter starts, and it ends on Halloween. Hey, thanks for sending all those emails, reminding people to fill out their surveys. I was one of those idiots who didn't fill out their address till the very last email. Yeah, no problem. I mean, we get it. It's so far in advance, the pre-orders, that it's easy to kind of let it slip. I know I've participated in a bunch of Kickstarters, and I kind of forget I ever did it in the first place. It's kind of a bummer that Kickstarter doesn't take addresses like right away, for like a placeholder, so that we don't have to, so like the worst case scenario isn't us like seeking you out last minute. It kind of sucks, but it's okay. I mean, you take, it's like everything else about it's great, so can't really take it for granted. But yeah, we're still out like 40 people or something like that. But it's okay. I mean, for the amount of people that bought it, that's a crazy number. From what we've heard, most people have at least for the volume that we sold, most people have a huge fallout rate for all the addresses and stuff, and never gets shipped out. I think I forget the percentage that we have, but it's crazy low. Out of I think on Kickstarter there was over 6,000 people bought it on Kickstarter. So out of 6,040 is a really good number, and those people, it's like they just don't exist. One person's name is Butt Munchie, and and their email doesn't work or anything, so it's like they basically just vanished off the face of the planet. So we've been doing like these searches for people on like Facebook and Twitter, and doing like Google searches of their emails to find any way to reach out to them, but some of them it's just they don't exist anymore, or they had like a school email and they're not on Facebook or Twitter. It's kind of a mess, but it's all part of the process, so it's okay. Dave, do you sell prints of any of your drawings somewhere? Where can one buy your art? I don't sell prints. The only way you can buy my stuff now is pretty much just when we make a comic. And eventually I'll have some kind of shop up, but yeah, nothing yet. which is weird. I know people have like, I have this weird thing about selling stuff like that where I just don't feel like it's good enough or that anybody would want it. I think that's the underlying thing in my head. So I just never really think to do it. I'm like, oh, well, none of this stuff is very good. It never really crosses my mind. But if I have like personal things that aren't owned by anybody, which is kind of rare, then I would do it. Maybe like in the future, but I don't know what I would draw because so far the only things we got going on right now is Steve. We'll eventually get to Skull and Shark, and I think that'll be more like print worthy. And maybe at like a convention or something, but yeah. I just don't want to go to jail for selling stuff, you know what I mean? Selling other people's stuff. Is October a good time to launch a Kickstarter? Yeah, you want to hit it before the holidays. And it's pretty much the thing of it. And I mean, I don't know the actual statistics. Like, I've never looked at like a spreadsheet of a breakdown of like when is the best time to do it. But as far as I can tell, it kind of like just from people's mannerisms around that time of year, it feels like a good time. It's like, it's not the peak of summer. People are around. They're starting to like, I don't know, settle in for the winter. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. They're starting to hibernate. They go on their computers and they buy stuff. What do you think of Overwatch in terms of mechanics, character, story? I really like their advertising campaign. I think it's super good. Everything about it's really great. It's really smart the way that they like tie people like their emotions into the characters like that, creating like that Pixar vibe, and then I don't know, just building off of that. They're also really good silhouettes. All the character designs, they're all stereotypical, but that's the point. I like that side of it. It's like it's the same kind of thing as League of Legends. They have like a character from each thing, except League of Legends has like Teemo, which is like super close to the Final Fantasy Moogle, so it's like it's not as direct of like a clone as League of Legends is. They have like their own characters, which I think is better, and they're all really distinct. I just think the whole thing is really smart. Let me see. Shipping prints is a nightmare. That is right. Yeah, I shipped prints for a little while, and it was just chaos. That's the reason that we hired. We're hired. We didn't hire. We're using Amazon's fulfillment services because just the logistics of doing all this, well, it would have been impossible for us. First of all, we were going to do it ourselves because we thought maybe we would sell the bare kind of like goal we had. But when it got to the point where we were selling like 5,000 books, we were like, yeah, somebody else needs to do this. So we got Amazon, and they have tracking information that they're going to send out to everybody, and it's going to be like handled properly. Everything ships super fast, and we just have to pay them for the service. But overall, yeah, I mean, it's just a nice thing instead of just having everything go missing, because to use UPS or FedEx on our own would be like ultra expensive. We wouldn't have been able to do it for the rates that we charge, so we had to use a fulfillment service. And I've had so much stuff sent back to me after doing prints and having them get lost in the mail that it's so much, it's so chaotic. Dave, when will you post the process video of the marker pick you created? The night guy. I'm gonna put that up soon. I just haven't yet. Um, they the video, I'm just editing it. I had to put the whole thing together. I'm finally doing like the super high res videos. So uh, I'm using like real editing software. Before I was just using Camtasia, which wasn't very good. Um, and yeah, so I'm learning as I go. I did the last video in Adobe Premiere that I put up on YouTube, and it seems like way more intuitive. So I'm gonna do that for my tutorial and get it nice and pretty. Hopefully, I'll probably. I don't know if I'm gonna charge for it because I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I might charge like $2 just because it takes me so long. But the video is gonna be really, really long. I think I have about 8 hours or 10 hours of footage or something like that. What will be better? What will be a better movie? Assassin's Creed or Warcraft? From question from David Hayter. Oh, hey David Hayter. The Guyver. Um I don't know. Maybe Assassin's Creed. I think both of those movies. It's just weird to build a story off of a game like that doesn't really have a story that's anything crazy or new. It's not, you know, it's not this brand new idea that's really interesting. It's kind of the same old. But yeah, I don't know. I heard the Warcraft movie was really bad from a lot of the initial reviews, but the trailers to me they didn't look super great. But yeah. You think that Arnold Sang, who worked for Udon Entertainment and Capcom stuff, you think that the character designs reflect something from Street Fighter? For for did he design the stuff for Blizzard on Overwatch? If that's the case, then I do get like a Street Fighter vibe. I mean, the silhouettes in Street Fighter are really important, and I think that they're awesome. That's like one of the reasons why that game stands out as like the top fighting games to me, because like when Mortal Kombat, none of their silhouettes are, I mean, they're not bad, but they're not as distinct as something that's as exaggerated in the style that like Street Fighter is, or Overwatch. Games like that are more cartoony, you can get away with the proportions being extreme. But if he designed it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Will we do game streams? Probably not. I don't really play a lot of games, and when I do, it's for like 15 minutes. I'll play like one little mission in Doom. That's what I've been doing for the past couple days. Oh god, I always do this. It's too tiny of a canvas for this brush, at least. Dave, sorry if my questions are annoying, but I also struggle a lot with style. I want a style, but I'm really indecisive. I try to study artists that I like, but when I get what they're doing, I suddenly find it boring and not appealing anymore. Any tips? It depends, I guess, on what you're really like, what you're feeling. Hold on, I'm gonna put up a little advertisement. Click. Shit, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. I don't know what I'm doing with this yet. Uh, well, if you're putting in your all, and you are, and you're working really hard, and you're kind of like hitting walls, and it's bugging you where you're like struggling in the part where it gets really difficult, then I would say keep going, because that's when you feel uncomfortable, it's when you're learning something. You're challenging yourself. Like, there were a lot of times when we were working on the first Steve book where I was like, this is really hard. Like, I don't want to do this like forever. But, I was doing something like 50 pages a month or something like that. And it was just insane. But when you feel that way, it's good to have the discipline in yourself to push through that wall, because that's when you're going to really learn something. That's when you're about to do something. It's when you're feeling uncomfortable. You shouldn't, when you're learning, that's when you're really like taking in information and having to use it. It's when you're like uncomfortable, you're in a place that you don't understand. That's when it's something new. So don't feel intimidated by that. And maybe the boredom when you feel that way is more of just like, I'll get away from this. I want to get as far away from this as possible. I mean, like, I get that too, where all of a sudden I want to eat every chip that ever existed in the whole universe and all the salsa in the world. Like, whenever I feel that way, I know there's something I'm not doing. Like, I'm finding a reason to procrastinate. I'm like, I'm hungry, maybe. And then I'll just go and stuff my face. And when in reality, it's because I'm sitting in this space. I'm like, what will it feel like when we finish the comic book? I've never finished anything like that, so I'm uncomfortable. It's almost like I don't want to finish it at all. It'd be so much easier if I didn't have to do this. Therefore, chips and salsa. So if that's what you're feeling, then I would say avoid it at all costs. Just keep going down that road. Keep feeling like shit until you get to the other side. But the flip side of that is if you have done that and it's all in terms of style alone, just period, like photo reel or whatever, then do something else. Challenge yourself to do something else. You don't need to be anything. There's this common thing that goes on in each little community. A big part of the concept art community, entertainment art, all that is that they always say you gotta be this one thing or you'll never do anything else. You'll never become somebody. Like, I've had people tell me that, like, sometimes I vanish off into the world and because I just don't want to talk about stuff that like kind of bugs me like that. At least not in public. Not unless I can do something like this where I can actually explain myself. And I'll just like do a one-off comment of like, don't listen to people like this, when I'm typing. And then somebody, like, recently I said that and they were like, you don't know the realities of what it's like to be a concept artist. You don't understand that, the only thing you can do is take photos and manipulate them and use them in your work because of the deadlines and all this stuff. And I was sitting there reading it and I'm like, what? Like, what? Why are you just saying that flat out that's the only way you could ever do anything? What were people doing in the early 90s? What were they doing in the 80s? What were they doing since movies existed? It's like, not that you need to be this amazing artist, you just need good ideas, and you need to be able to show ideas. So that's more important than anything. But like, in terms of just like exploration, do everything. Whenever you feel like you don't want to be a part of a style, that's perfectly normal. I don't want to do anything. Look what I'm drawing now. I'm drawing Steve Lichtman, this comic character that we just made out of thin air, as Tracer from Overwatch, and like it's going to be this dumb cartoony style. It's not something that's necessarily like marketable in terms of like the world that I kind of come from in concept and entertainment art and marketing and all that stuff. It doesn't really make any sense to do it, but I like doing it, so why not? I learned just as much doing 250 whatever page book as I did drawing, painting apples on my desk or painting like realistic samurai. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter. Everything can teach you something. Whenever you feel bored, that's just who you are maybe. And then you just dive into something else. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let people tell you that you can't make a living doing something you love. You can always do that. You just need to challenge yourself, take the time, execute on it, go through with your plans, and then when you get bored of that, after you've done your best, then try something else and keep learning. Sorry to ramble forever about that. So true professionals never eat chips and salsa? No, they do. What I meant was that When I'm in the middle of working really hard on something and I know I have to do it and I feel that procrastination like building up inside of me, I will crash and burn so hard. I'll see like if chips and salsa is a tree and I I am the procrastinating drunk driver and it's like I'm going to hit that tree and I'm going to hit it going like 80 miles an hour. I'm going to be at my lowest point and then I'm going to eat every chip in the house and I'm going to start eating everything that exists. And then after that, only after that, can I come through on the other side. But I have to hit those walls over and over and over again. And then that's when I kind of like break through. But by no means am I like this super hardworking. Well, I do work hard, but I'm not consistently hardworking. I will every few weeks slam the brakes and just die. Like something will happen and life will just devour me. Forrest. Hey, Dave and Dan, whoever really. I'm getting to a point now with work where it's become really hard to balance work and personal work projects. Where when you guys were going through those mid-tier jobs, peso level, which is a RPG, how did you make time for stuff like studies and personal work? I think make time is probably the best way I could respond to that. You said it. Make time. You just make time. Somehow you get faster. It's sorry I'm not actually drawing on the screen right now, by the way. I just can't get into this and actually draw this at the same time. So bear with me. Um, yeah, in terms of that, like there's really nothing I can say to make that easier. You just have to walk through garbage for a while. Like you need the money. I get it. Everybody does. Like I've been there so many times in my life where it's like I work, 16-hour days and I kept working those hours simply because, and I never did personal work. This is when I was like not studying. I wasn't really like the studies I did was, I think a motorcycle just drove through my apartment. The study thing was when I was actually working on something, I would study something that had to do with it, and then I would do it, which was pretty much the only time I could make something work. Like it's the only time I could like learn something new fundamentally. I'd have to apply it to the jobs I was doing because otherwise it was like I was super buried all the time. I don't know. It's really difficult. In terms of when we did Steve, that was more or less after saving a bunch of money. So like I got to the point where I was working marketing jobs and I worked as many as I could in a row, sat on the money. I still worked through Steve. I worked, in the mornings before I started doing the comic pages, whatever I could do. I tried to keep jobs. I did some like movie concept art stuff. But I also have the benefit of I've worked up to the point where like I can get jobs like that and I don't need to worry so much about where the next one's coming from because I've talked to enough people and whatever, and I've worked with enough people over time that they know me and I can ask for stuff if I need it. Uh, but sometimes that's kind of what it takes. Is it's like you either dive into it super hard, take a gamble, and not have money for a little while, like live as cheaply as possible and do the thing you love, or you do what I did, work up. I didn't do my first personal thing like this, seriously do it until, like I've been working now in the industry for 10 years. Well, not technically, it's been like 8 years since I started doing like higher level like jobs, like the mid tier you're talking about. And after that, it was like, uh, this constant uphill thing until I could 8 years later, be at least a little bit comfortable. And when that happened, it was just like a dive into it. Like I couldn't even do it for that long. Like I ran out of money. Um, well, I also spend money like stupid amounts because taxes eat me alive. So I pretty much just do all these write-offs. So I'll buy like new computer and things like that whenever I get a paycheck or something like that. So I'm always kind of like borderline running out of money. Like like not dramatically, but by the end of Steve, it was like, we were coming up to when we were going to start the Kickstarter, and I was pretty much like gonna be broke pretty soon. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot I can say other than it's really hard, and that's why nobody does it. So maybe you can find a better way to do it than I did. Um, but that's kind of on you. It's like that's why nobody does these things is because it's so hard to kind of like how do you do it without some kind of support? It's really difficult. Uh, but also, I heard this might be. I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but I was thinking about this today when I was walking my dog about how I was going to do the stream, and I was thinking about that comment that I mentioned before about how you don't know how hard it is to do concept art, and like that you need to make deadlines, so you should do this. You should do the photo thing, and I think that stuff makes plenty of sense. The photo stuff, I get it. I've done it before. I did it in marketing and whatever. It's like sometimes I had 24-hour deadlines that were like murder. But I've worked on movies, and I've doing concept art, and I've worked on video games, and you don't really have tight deadlines. Like sometimes you do. Like sometimes they're really bad, but other times they're all right. It's like it's not the worst. So the most I'm usually given, like, let's say for a video game, I would get like uh 5 days, or like 5 days. Same thing with the movie stuff, maybe a little bit less. But I did everything by hand, and not to like spite anybody or prove a point or nothing like that. It's just because that's what I like to do. I enjoy it. And it's just that like nobody, when I think about why a lot of people get into it, or at least a lot of the kind of comments I get from people talking about like the money side of it, it's like, why do you think you deserve it? Like, why should you just get it? You know what I mean? It's like, why do you need to do the quickest possible way to do it, to take on the most work, to make the most money? Like, I understand being in a rough, like financial state. I've been there plenty of times. But at the same time, it's like, you gotta pretty much, you also have to do what you love to do. It depends on the person. It's like, but if you love the craft and you like doing you like working with your hands, you like making tactile stuff, you like the feeling of getting better at traditional, or growing just like in knowledge with your fundamentals in terms of like in the traditional sense of painting and all that, then by all means do it, because there are no restrictions. And if the deadline is faster than you'd like, then you just need to get faster, and nobody owes you anything else but that. You need to get faster. There doesn't need to be an easier way to do it. You can find an easier way to do it, but if you want it to be difficult and you want to keep learning in that fundamental sense, then just get faster. Just do it. Like, just become a better, faster artist. You can do it. Anybody can do it. People have been doing it forever. So there's no reason why we can't. But anyway, sorry to ramble on and on and on about that, but I've just been thinking a lot about it. You buy stuff to skip out on taxes? No, I don't skip out, but I got to put deductions in. Like, we did the Steve Lichman Kickstarter, for instance. I mean, I have to do this every year. But if I make like a good amount of money, and because I'm a freelancer, you get taxed differently. Um, like for instance, for us in Acceptable Comics, if we have like the business being Acceptable Comics, if the money goes into there, it'll be taxed differently than if it went straight to me. Like if I'm a freelancer, I get taxed depending on the amount I make, but I can get taxed up to like 30. Well, I mean, I don't know if it ever stops, but it's like for me, I'll get taxed 30%, and it's insane. Like I've had years where I owed $40,000 in taxes, and the way that I get that number down is to spend money on things that I need throughout the year. So I have all these deductions, and pretty much if you're a freelancer and you do entertainment art, the deductions are pretty much everywhere. So like any video game, magazine, anything at all that has to do with what you do. You can get furniture for your office space. You can, anything like that. Like you kind of just eat away at that number. So that's what I always try and do. And then the challenge is somehow making the money back that I spent in the next year. And it's a cycle that never stops and leaves me with zero savings. It's just garbage. I mean, I can't complain because, of course it's better than what I was doing years ago. It's better than, I get to make my own time, all that stuff. But it's like, in terms of, I don't know, just the constant cycle. I'm glad that we finally have a business is pretty much what I'm saying, where I won't get taxed the same way. We get to hold money in our account and pay ourselves a salary, which is so much better than making money the other way of just having it go directly into my account and getting taxed 30%. It's like, oh my God. Forrest says, right now I think I'm just getting a feel for how much work I need to take on and how much work I should take on. I'm hoping after I get a better balance, I can start working on my own stuff again. Yeah, it's all about balance. You need to not go crazy, which is a huge part of freelance. You need to go outside. You need to talk to people. You need to be a human. You need to have experiences. So that's part of it. And then you also have to get better to get better work, obviously. And then somehow, on top of all of that, make extra time to do something for yourself that will ultimately raise you higher than all of those things. But yeah, that's the balance I think everybody kind of struggles with, especially getting into it. It's like, how do you do it? So, okay, Kristen says, so the higher the tier project, the less time you have. No, it just depends. It just depends on the company. In terms of like entertainment art and that whole world, there's just less time because it's the nature of the job. You know, what what I think is funny about the approach to doing it is we pretty much did that to ourselves when everything used to be sprite based, and sprite based had these animations that were pretty much like they were close to just being like hand drawn art, and that went away because it was easier to do CG. But what it did was when something's easier, you don't have to take like the long road. Not that everybody who does the easier thing is bad by any means, but you don't have to take the long road. It's like how you can write an article online and it can blow up. You don't need to go through the process of becoming a journalist. You don't need to like learn how to write good. You don't need to learn how to, you don't need to go through that whole weeding, like weeding out the people with the people who aren't like willing to work hard, the people who don't have it in them to like become great, or less educated people, whatever. Like any of that stuff, it's like there's a whole process that was in place of, like filtration of talent. And when things get easier and easier, it's like you don't have that so much. So you get I don't know. I feel like you get less of a quality product, not across the board, but just in general. When it's more accessible, it doesn't take as much. You don't have to work as hard. It becomes this whole thing. But when that happens as well, you have this problem where like all of a sudden, um, computers come in and everybody's doing digital art, and then the idea of photo manipulation comes in, and it's like people talk about how the deadlines are so tight, so how could you possibly do traditional? The reason the deadlines are so tight in the first place is because everybody started using those techniques, and people said, oh, you can turn something out like that looks like real in 2 days? That's crazy. So they were like, okay, so now the new standard is 2 days. I expect everybody to be able to do it in 2 days. So just like in and of itself, we have worked in the industry, hit these deadlines, come up with an easier solution, and then defined the deadlines based around that solution. So it's just, yeah, tight deadlines. But you can do it. You just have to rise to it. You gotta, if that's what you want to do. If you want to do like, hand drawn stuff, you can do that. Just gotta be a little faster. What was the brief and deadline like with Deadpool? That was, well, I did like drawings like I am right now, like these line work drawings for all the marketing for that movie. And I pretty much do that for my concept art jobs. I don't do that for movie stuff, not like actual concept art in movies. But for games and things like that, I'd rather do drawings that clearly define my ideas rather than like muddier stuff. No paintings. But for Deadpool, the deadlines, I think I probably did like three or so poster ideas a day for a couple weeks. Nothing super crazy, but they were like drawings with simple colors and stuff. More like just showing compositions, like ideas of what they could look like. I guess okay. OMG, Oni asks, I guess Acceptable Comics as a company is quite important then. Will you guys make anything bigger out of Acceptable Comics, or is it only there for tax purposes? No. And then he says, that came out a lot more, that came out a lot douchier than I meant to. Um, no, it's not just there for that. We want to actually be a publisher. We want to make a banner that can go over us. So it's not us. Like, I don't like the idea of saying like our names. Like when you get the books, you'll see that it doesn't say like by Dave Rapoza and Dan Warren. It doesn't say that in the book. It says it in like the legal information, but we want the things we do to exist without us. Like we are the people that write it and whatever and draw and stuff, but in terms of how they're like consumed, we don't want to be at the forefront of it. We just kind of want to like let it be its own thing. So it's more of a way for us to kind of like, I don't know, do that kind of work without it being associated with other things that we do necessarily. Pin Shivik asks, well, it says, Dave, I've been practicing drawing / painting for 6 months and recently put myself a goal of studying at least 6 hours a day, but I never go and try to do finished paintings. I don't know if it's bad and if I should start doing personal work. Whatever feels, I don't know. You have to have a mix. It's like you can't just do all studies all the time. It's admirable and it will get you closer to your goal, but you also want to keep your imagination alive. It's like, so if you have ideas and you're not letting yourself do them because you feel like guilty or whatever else for not doing the goal of studying all the time, then do that as well. Like, plan out a week instead of a daily thing. Stop saying that 6 hours a day every day is studying. Maybe do it, a little less. You can do it 2 hours a day, an hour a day. I think it's more important to like have focus than to give yourself large windows. Because if you give yourself a huge amount of time, you're gonna fill that time. But if you give yourself a smaller amount of time, you'll find that as it goes, you'll fill that same amount of time with probably the same volume of work. It's like give yourself an hour and you'll probably do the same thing because you'll be pressed for time. You'll find ways to improve faster. And I think you take in the information better when it's a more focused deadline. It's called Parkinson's Law. If you look it up, old Tim Ferriss thing, I remember. Christian B asks, is there or will there be any more Steve Lichman books for sale for those of us who missed the pre-order? Yep. If you go to stevelichman.com, it's at the bottom of the screen. You can sign up for the newsletter. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you will be notified when we have the second edition of book 1, as well as book 2, which will be launching at the same time on Kickstarter for pretty much the same amount of time too. So there'll be like the same kind of release schedule we have right now, where things are shipping months in advance, because we have to pay for everything to be printed. So we do a pre-order system through Kickstarter to make it easier for us to maintain our self-publishing. Sorry, I'm just not really drawing. I will find a rhythm eventually, and it'll make more sense. Tracer Steve. Nixon asks, how would you approach negotiations and contracts with such large clients? Were they much different to converse with? If I were smarter, I would have contracts in place. I actually don't right now. I have the templates and everything, and I should be using them, but right now I don't. So, for the most part, I've never really had a bad experience with bigger things, like bigger entities like marketing companies or movie studios. They usually pay on time, and I don't really have any problem with them. As far as negotiations go, that's kind of all up in the air. It depends your skill level, how much they want you to work on the project. It's a whole thing you kind of got to understand over time. Like, if you're not used to it, you kind of got to like feel it out. Like, you'll get used to it as you quote people. Like I've heard people say, like, you should absolutely always have a day rate, but sometimes that doesn't work for people who are starting out. You probably will need to charge a flat rate sometimes. You'll need to take on worse work. Don't let yourself go without experience. It's like internships, you know what I mean? Internships exist. Would you tell the people that go and intern at like really great places that they're idiots for doing that? You will need to take a hit on a lot of stuff in the beginning and then slowly work up to a point where you can negotiate. But once you start doing that, you gotta just basically feel them out, how much they want you and all that. But yeah, the worst part of negotiating a day rate is when you do and you find out like you're on the phone and you say like, well, I'd like this a day. And then all of a sudden on the other line they go, oh yeah, okay, that's that's fine. It's like if they don't like have that moment of like, oh, then you know that you quoted way too little. That's the worst feeling ever. Just go, oh man, that means that everybody else in this job is getting paid way more than me. But there's a whole thing of there's a lot of fear in when it comes to rights and negotiating and all that stuff, and it's nice to be able to say that like you should do all of these things before you even get started, but really you should just get started and worry about all that as you go. Like if things get bad and like you get to a point where somebody seriously screws you, then yeah, get some legal help. But if you are coming out of the gate and you're like a starting artist and you say, hey, I know you're giving me a shot and you don't really care if I work for you, but I have this contract and you better sign it and you better not fuck me over. Like, that's dangerous. Like, they probably would be like, what the hell? What is this? Like, don't do this. Like, don't give me a contract. Get out of here. But, yeah, not the best advice if you're starting out to do that. Even though you hear it all the time and you see it in viral videos, know what you're worth. It's like, know when to sit back and also be like the person that's humbled that they got a job and is willing to work super hard above what they're being paid and try their best. That's the person that's going to get work and going to get better work and going to keep growing. Otherwise, yeah, don't demand the world before it makes sense for you to do so. It's just that things aren't fair and they shouldn't be because the world isn't awesome. The world isn't perfectly great right away. Eventually, you'll get somewhere with it. Sorry if I'm totally silent. Christian B asks, when you're starting out, is it better to chase clients or just promote yourself and produce until they approach you? Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you want to be chasing, clients if you need the money. Like people talk a lot about how sit back in the wings and exist as this amazing artist and come out of the gate hard. But some people just can't afford to live like that, and you need to start like building this work ethic. You need to be able, like, as important as it is to learn the skills of just being an artist period and having that skill set, it's equally as important to understand the business. You need to be able to know what you're doing. It's like it's just as hard to get a grasp on that as it is to do, any kind of artwork. It's just a different kind of way of thinking, and you need to be used to both. So I would chase clients right away. I chased clients when I first started, and I'm really happy I did because it gave me kind of, in my opinion, starting out, I felt like I had a good foundation going into working for real clients. Like after I worked for not that they're not real clients, but like higher end people, after I started working for people who were like, just, can you do something for my D&D group? And I was like, yeah, of course. But it gave me a grasp of like how to deal with somebody who's really picky, because people that start out like that, it's like, his name is Elfgar and he's blah blah blah. He's a tricky guy, and blah, blah, and you're just like, well, none of this means anything. Like it's like a math problem, or like an equation where you're trying to get rid of all of the garbage information that's in a description. Like, what am I actually doing? You get to work with difficult art directors, like the most difficult in the world. And yeah, I think that helps. I think you should chase clients right away. Keep promoting yourself, keep working, keep constantly reinventing yourself with your portfolio. Not reinventing to the point where you're changing everything about yourself. I don't mean that. I just mean that, like, keep working and replacing the things you do and try really hard, and just don't give up, because most things that are successful, even the ones that are bad, it's like they're just consistent. Being consistent is sometimes enough. There's plenty of artists that you would look at and go like, how are they popular? What? That doesn't make any sense. How are they making money? They're doing better than me. Oh my God. And it's like, well, maybe they understand other aspects of it that you should also give a chance. Maybe they've like learned through repetition, or they've done clients, they've done a lot of promotion, they understand promotion, whatever. All that stuff is important. Kristen says, I'd like to request a Rick and Morty Steve Lichman. Yeah, I've actually heard that a couple times. I probably will. Russell Jones. What was your study process like for your old Applebot stuff? Curious, by that point, you were able to work them up without hitting walls. If by that point you were able to work them up. No, I hated, I don't know. I was in denial for a really long time. I kind of just like did stuff like that, and I never understood. I mean, this is just me personally. I don't mean this for like fantasy art in general or that style or approach, but like I never enjoyed it. I didn't like it. I tried to. It's like I heard that everybody else liked it, and I was like, yeah, I'm a part of this group. I too love drawing Applebot stuff. And I was just like, no, I hate this. Like, I hate this more than anything. It's like, oh my God. Like, if I have to paint these girls or like these muscle demons like anymore, I'm going to lose it. And for the longest time, I was able to detach myself from the work and just be like, okay, this is just a series of steps and I'm going to execute them. And when I would hit little walls, or I wouldn't understand something with the lighting or whatever, I would do little studies and things. But overall, I just kind of didn't enjoy the work, so I didn't feel like a lot of it was very good at all. I would rather do, like, the one thing I've learned about ever since kind of like stopping working on video games and things is that I'm more interested in relating to people, like talking to you right now. Like, this is more entertaining to me than anything. I enjoy just like communicating ideas or whatever, like just things where I'm a person. And when I'm doing comics with Dan and we're writing stuff, I can be a person. Like, I can talk about my childhood. I can, tell jokes. Like, I can just be stupid. And I can relate to people in that way. And I think the best kind of art is when you relate to somebody. The things that you remember are always things that have like an anchor point in you, where there's a reason you hold on to the image. So like, if you think about images that really mean something to you, it's probably like an idea or like a feeling about it, just something in it that's more than what it is. And I was never able to find that in doing artwork like the stuff I did for Applebot. I was never able to get there, where a lot of people, I feel like they could bring that stuff out, but I just never was, and I thought I could be, but I realized that I just don't enjoy it. So yeah, I tried for a long time to make that stuff work, and it just didn't for me. And I realized that just some people don't like that stuff. You know what I mean? I'll never wear a backwards hat that covers my eyebrows. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but I don't like it. Anyway, Char of the Flame asks, I just read your May blog post. Do you plan on writing more blog posts going forward? I really enjoy your writing. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's where I kind of vent. I'll definitely do more of that. Uh, that's kind of like where I have the most fun. That's where I want to. That's why I want to come back on to here and do more live stream stuff and just talk. I used to think it was really bad. I was actually talking to Dan about this today, about how I don't know. I kind of like um, had this thing in me where I started to really be jaded on the ego trip of a lot of people who are public, and I don't like. I thought it was wrong of me to like want to talk to people like that, to be out, like to be on here the way I am, talking to you and taking on questions. Like the whole idea was that like I just was like, oh, I don't want to act like I know things. Like I feel like that's kind of gross, and I don't like when I see it. And I thought it was like wrong for a long time to feel that way, to like want to talk to people in like this open space and be like, hello, I know better than everyone. But I've kind of turned around and I'm just like, well, I just like talking. Like I just like getting my, I don't know, my brain out, just putting it out there, whether it's like a comic or writing a blog post or talking at like a workshop or something. I just like talking to people. So I decided I gotta change that. And even if I don't like the immediate world around it, I don't need to be that. I can exist away and just talk and be a human being. But yeah. What time is it here? Well, I'm in Denver, Colorado, and it's just about 8 p.m. Why isn't Dan talking in the stream? Is he the moderator? Well, Dan is a moderator, but I was just kind of testing this. I wanted to see what the graphics looked like on the screen and stuff. I wasn't really planning on like doing a whole stream, but it turned into that. So there's that. I don't know. Now we owe art, I think, or now low. Sorry, my eyes are really bad. I'm getting glasses finally so that I can see. Let me see. Building my portfolio. Oh, I'm building my portfolio. Should I fill as much knowledge of single fundamentals in single pieces, or should I limit those to a minimum and then just do more pieces to show them off? Speaking of things like rendering materials, composition, anatomy, culture, etc. When it comes to your portfolio, nobody really cares too much about the fundamental stuff. I mean, you need to be able to execute things. You got to be good. So you should, work really hard. You should try and do the best job possible for the market you're going for. Like you should work and, nail that style, the visual thing you're aiming towards. Whatever that goal is, keep going that direction. But it's more, as far as the portfolio goes, where you're like applying for jobs and things, it's more important that the ideas are cool. Like you have to have interesting ideas. People who are going to look at this, art directors, they'll see a lot of the stuff, that your peers will see. They'll see like the fundamental things. They'll see what's wrong, they'll see what's right, what's working, whatever. But beyond everything, they're working for a company that needs you to be able to come up with new ideas. So whatever you like, whatever is cool to you, do that. Like above all else, have interesting ideas. People want ideas more than anything. It's like where everybody's trying to be the most skillful person in the world. Be the person who has just fun stuff to say. Like you have interesting thoughts on things. Like it's just cool stuff. I don't know. Like I think about a lot of the bosses from like the old Final Fantasy games and things like that. It's like a lot of them were really crazy looking, like Final Fantasy 6. A lot of the designs were really cool, and it was just they weren't super rendered, crazy polished, amazing, like wow, that looks like a real person or a real monster. They were just cool looking. And I think that's kind of what people are hungry for more than anything. It's just things that look awesome. It doesn't matter how you get there, what the skills are. You could get wherever you're going as long as you got interesting things to say. And I think that's the most important thing to focus on. Just let yourself go nuts and come up with different things. Give yourself a little barrier, like little walls, say that like I'm going to come up with a one-eyed cat that has tons of muscles all over it and snakes for arms. That's not a cool idea. Don't do that. But just like let yourself do stupid things and try and make them cool. That's something I usually do for myself, to just wing it and do random little things. Char of the Flame says, "You live in Denver? I just moved there. I'm actually stuck in Cincinnati. If you ever do a fan meetup, I'd totally be there. My husband's an artist." Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and be a human being. I suck at it right now. I've been just like locked away in here forever. It's crazy. Like I've just been in a room drawing and nobody's seen anything I've done. It's like the craziest feeling ever is to do so much work, like just hundreds of pages of work, and have nobody see it. Me and Dan have written like, as far as the scripts go for Steve Litchman, we've written like novels worth of scripts and nobody's ever seen them. So it's like we're just waiting for everything to come out, and until that happens I just feel nuts. So I do need to come back into the world of people which sounds insane, and just like talk and be around and stuff. This is my small introduction to that, and I'll try and keep it going. But yeah, I'd like to do something here eventually in Denver. Maybe like rent a place or something and do demos with some other artists. We'll see what happens. And I'll come up and I'll say, "Hi, my name is Dave Rapoza, and I'd like you all to know that I know everything, and I hope you know everything about me. It's all about me." I'm just kidding. I would never do that. Kill me. Zan Tetsukin 15 asks, "Serious question. I work a full-time job, fast food cook, and I'm trying to do studies after work. How do you manage your time when you have very little, like 4 hours, 2 hours of sleep?" I don't know. I mean, you just kind of like dive into it. You do whatever you can with whatever time you can. I know it's kind of like, why would you say this, Dave? You have tons of time. You're a freelancer. It's easy for you. But I wasn't always doing this, and I would just say that like you need, if you feel like you have any time at all, like let's say you spend some time on Facebook, or you're here right now listening to this. I don't know, maybe you're at work, maybe I'm on your headphones. But anytime you have like this, you're checking on your phone, you find yourself playing a video game or watching TV, that's time you could spend doing the thing you want to do. So you do have little hidden things, You gotta be like real economical with your time. Christian B. Dave, just out of curiosity, how did you learn design? Because you were self-taught, right? Well, I mean, self-taught in that I just like took in the information alone, but I've always been a fan of just design in general. Like I love the idea of design. Like I love composition in design. I love everything about it, so I'm naturally interested in it, and I like dive into it all the time. I like limited design. I like keeping characters down to 3 basic ideas. Like I will never repeat too many themes in a picture because I feel like it goes all over the place, too many colors. It has to be like pretty simple. And animation helps for that. When you have to design a character that looks cool but can be like simply drawn, I think that helps a lot in how you design characters. Creating interesting silhouettes and learning why certain silhouettes evoke certain feelings, or make a character feel big and strong versus weak, and like how does posture come into effect and everything like that, like what do hands mean when they're doing different things. All of that's really important when you're designing characters. Oh, hello. My dog's right next to me. But outside of that, I would say, it's kind of just something you got to be interested in. Like, if you're interested in it, then, like, just expose yourself to more stuff. Sorry, I'm getting totally distracted. My dog is, like, just jumping up on me. It needs love. So I'm... So stupid. I hear you. It makes sense. I know. I hate those people too. My dog's racist. Pinshivik asks, Dave, I've been into illustration for most of the time, but I really want to get into concept art and don't know where to start. Any books or tips about good design and all that? Well, like I was saying, you just kind of have to learn fundamentals of it. Look at a bunch of really good design. Look at like Street Fighter. Stuff like fighting games are a really good example of like strong design. Well, like the good ones are at least. And it helps to kind of look at that and be like, why does this work? Why is each one of these characters distinct? If you're doing a comic or, an animated show, or you're doing a video game, you're doing video game artwork, a movie or whatever, and you got to design characters, you have to kind of be able to look at them and go, well, what character is this and why are they important? So like, once you figure that out, it's easier to kind of break down how to design that character. But it's important to kind of like, because otherwise you'll just design heroes and stuff like that, like main characters all the time, which is easier, I think. Give yourself little restrictions. How possible is it to make a portfolio in 3 months? Depends how fast you are. You could do it. You can really do anything. People have done crazier things. The world is full of nuts people. Why do you need to be on the microphone? Do you need to like sit in my lap or something? What the hell is this? Come here. So heavy. Sorry. Oh hey, McLean Kendry asks, Dave, can you attach a GoPro to your dog's collar and stream the footage in a window in the corner while you draw? Thanks, super appreciate it. Of course I can, but my Wi-Fi is not great. So, I don't know. If she gets too far away, I don't know if it'll stream properly to the internet. But I would very much like to explore that option. I think it's great. I think it could add a lot. David Hayter, how you even been approached to work at a studio? What made you say, oh, have I even been approached to work at a studio? What made you say no to them? When I first started out, kind of like being, around and on the forums and, CG Hub and all that, I was approached a few times. I just never really wanted to do it because I wanted the freedom. I don't know if I'm just non-existent. Am I dead? Is this stream totally dead? Let me reload it. Yeah, okay. So, I never really wanted to just kind of like work for a studio because it just lacked the freedom, and I like being able to make my own time and work as hard as I want. I also thought it would make me feel comfortable. I thought that if I worked in a space with a bunch of other people and the day ended at a certain time, as much as that would make me happy to like, turn off my brain and do something else, it also, I felt like, would make me lazy I felt like I wouldn't push myself as hard. But yeah, that's kind of why I turned it down. And I also felt like I was moving at a certain pace and I didn't want to stop doing that. I had like this schedule that was like ongoing and I was working, as hard as I could and trying to be something, and I didn't want to stop that. But I've worked at studios as like as somebody who's brought in to do some design stuff. I like doing that, but yeah, I mean, I kind of fell off because I stopped taking on a lot of jobs. I pretty much only did concept art from home, freelance marketing work or whatever else. But yeah, and now we do acceptable comics, and that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I'm pretty much like somehow the viewers dropped to 54 from like 100 something. I think I just went like offline. But yeah, I have my dog in my lap right now, and she's all excited about something. I don't know what. I might go off of here and come back later, but this was more or less a test stream. I know I didn't really draw anything. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't know if my internet's dying, but if you can hear me, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the questions. I'll be back on here in a regular way. I don't know any kind of schedule right now, but if that's doable, I might do that. If not, I'll be on here and I'll probably give like an hour's notice or something like that, or else I'll put it up on the stream, or I don't know. I'll find a way to tell people without it being super random. But yeah, I'm gonna get off of here for a bit and take this dog out because I think she has to I think she has to pee or something. But we're gonna be, me and Dan Warren, who wrote Steve Lichman with me, are gonna be pretty regular with the streams, I hope. But yeah, thanks again. I hope you're good. I'll come back on here maybe in a bit. Maybe it'll be tomorrow or something. But yeah, I'll see you all later. Thanks for hanging out. Bye. There goes the motorcycle. Or something. Yeah, that was my motorcycle. I just took off. Alright, see you guys.